All right, so I was reading up on the luminiferous ether is detected as a wind effect relative to the ether using a uniformly rotating interferometer by George Sagnac. Reading up on this, and I realized that George Sagnac was a lyricist, and this motherfucker flows. So we're gonna read this the way that George Sagnac intended it to be read, with a little bit of, I don't know, je ne sais quoi. Section 1. The method: I uniformly rotated at a speed of 1 or 2 turns per second around a vertical axis, a horizontal plate 50 centimeters in diameter, on which the various components of the interferometer were firmly anchored, analogous to the one that I used in previous research and described in 1910. Competus Rendus Tome 150, page 1676. That is the reference for those interested in following up on what George Sagnac just said. The two interfering beams, after reflecting from 4 mirrors placed at the edges of the rotating platform, were superimposed and traveled in opposite directions around exactly the same horizontal circuit, circumscribing the area S. The rotating system also contained the light source, a small electric lamp, and a detector L, a fine-grained photographic plate at the that registered the interference fringes at the focal point of the lens. In the images, D and S obtained successively during the right-hand rotation of a platform, and then the left-hand rotation, both at the same rotation frequency. The central fringe was observed to occur at different positions. I measured the difference between the centers of the fringes. The first method, I mark on the image D and then the image S the positions of the central fringe relative to the image of the micrometers vertical graduations placed in the focal plane of the collimator. The second method, I measure directly the distance from the vertical central fringe of the image D to the central fringe in the image S, precisely contiguous to the first two, but below within horizontal line separating the two. I obtained these two contiguous images without touching the photographic plate holder by opening prior to obtaining the images D and S, the two contiguous positions corresponding to the illuminated slit on the edges of the horizontal edges, razor blades, if you will, in the collimator's focal plane. Section 2, rotation or optical rotation effect, measured from the fringe spacing the displacement Z from the interference center that I observed with the preceding method, in a particular case of the optical rotation that I have defined earlier in Congress D. Bullock's September 1910, Tome 1, page 117 or 217. My mistake, read that wrong. That's not what the actual number was. It's 217. Competates Rendus Tome 152, 1911, page 310. Radium Tome, section 8, or I don't know, version 8, 1911. Man, messed up my whole flow. In which in the context of the current idea should be construed as a direct observation of the luminiferous ether. In a system moving as a whole relative to the ether, the propagation of time between any 2 points of the system should change in a way similar to the stationary system subjected to an ether wind, and the relative speed at which the point of the system will be the same, directly opposite to the speed at any point, and would contain the light waves in a manner similar to the atmospheric wind carrying sound waves. The observation of the optical effect of such an ether wind relative to the stationary ether wind or stationary ether will constitute a proof of the ether's existence, just as an observation of dude, why am I that's crazy. Just as the observation of the wind relative to the atmosphere on the speed of sound in a moving system would constitute, everything being equal, a proof of the existence of a stationary atmosphere enveloping a moving system. Dude, it's almost like Joe. I feel like a little Joe Budden's coming out in me. Like, what you want, bump, double click, bump, ride, swamp, dump, chunk, up, or whatever. I can't remember what it is. Anyway, but that's what I'm getting when I'm reading this. I'm getting a lot of Joe Budden. Yeah, dude. Anyway, the the need to the need to bring the need to bring one common luminous point oscillations that are combined to another point and to thereby produce interference reduces to zero the first order interference effect to the linear translation of the entire optical system if the matter constituting the ether does not produce a circular motion c of the ether within the optical circuit. Then the area S, that is to say the rotation of the circulation b times s in the ether. Competus Rendus Tome 141, 1905, page 1220, 1910, and 1911. Locksite. 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 All right. I mean, I think that's what that says. Anyway, George Sagnac was a G, dog. He got down. So anyway, I have shown interferomically 1910 and 1911. Locksite. With an optical path enclosing 20 meters squared in a vertical projection that the ether drag in the sun's neighborhood does not produce a rotational density B of more than 1/1000 radians per second in the ether in a horizontally mounted optical circuit at latitude A. The diurnal rotation of the ether of the Earth should, if the ether is stationary, produce a rotation relative to the ether that is a density of whatever this equation is, or whatever this equation is, radians per second, where t is the duration of the sidereal day and the very small quantity compared of 1/1000, the upper limit that I established for the vertically mounted optical circuit. I hope to be able to determine whether a corresponding small optical rotation exists or not. It was easier for me to find as a proof for the ether's existence by rotating a small optical circuit. A rotational frequency n of 2 turns per second gave me a rotational density of 4 times pi times n relative to the ether for a rotation of 25 rads per second. A uniform left-hand motion of the interferometer of the interferometer produces a left-hand ether wind and delays by x the phase of the beam t, whose motion around the area S is right-handed, and advances around the other beam R by the same amount, thus displacing the fringes by 2x units. 2x units, dude, your boy. X units. In case Sagnac ever wants to get into a rap beef. The displacement z that I observe between the images S and D should be twice that of the former on the basis of the value x observed. Locksite 1910, 1911, that we have this nice math equation. There's your boy lambda times v subscript 0. That's about all I'm going to read from that one. Where v, oh no, I'm going to read a little more, where v subscript 0 is the speed of light in a vacuum and lambda is the operating wavelength for a rotational frequency of n equals 2 seconds. 2 seconds. And the path of the area S being 160 centimeters squared, the observed value is z for 0.07 when using indigo light and is easily visible in the photographs I attached to this note, where the fringe spacing is between 0.5 and 1 millimeters. The interference displays z, a constant fringe spacing for the same value rotation frequency, and disappears on the photographs where the fringes were made sufficiently narrow. This shows that the observational effect, or that the observed effect, is very much due to the phase difference related to the rotational motion of the system. That, thanks to the counter screws that prevented the movement of the mounted screws of the optical components and the displacement of the interferogram observed in the comparison of the images S and D, does not arise from the accidental relative displacement of the elastic effects and the optical components during the rotation. Turbulent air produced above the interferometer I'm not singing it anymore. I'm just kind of reading it fast. Turbulent, turbulent, turbulent air produced by the interferometer by the fan rotating about an axis or about a vertical axis blowing downwards does not produce any displacement. The interferometer center given by a careful superstition of the opposite by careful superposition of the two opposite beams, any turbulent air analogous is less intense and producing during rotation does rotation of the system does not affect the experiment. The observed interference effect is very much due to the optical rotation due to the motion of the system relative to the ether and directly shows the existence of the ether, a necessary condition for the luminiferous waves proposed by Hudgens and Fresno. Mic drop, boy. Sagnac out.